welcome everybody today to our seminar, and let's start. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Jakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Last time we spoke about the effect of thoughts on others, and we did this little experiment. And today I want to show you, to start with, an excerpt of an interview with Helene Walbe. She's a director of research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Noetic means just means intellect, and it came out from one of the NASA people who after the experience of excursion into space, he had such an overwhelming experience of oneness and of spirituality that he just dropped everything and started this institute, basically. And she is a medium, and she's also a researcher. So she's speaking about various researches they did and experiments. And I'm going to share now. I have to change my screen.
Another category that has been very well studied is our intentions' effect on other people. This is called a distant mental intention of living systems, or DMILS. It's quite a fascinating laboratory protocol. A pair of people come in, often they're friends or family members, and one person is called the sender, and they are put in a room in a part of a building, and they're hooked up to brainwave devices, heart wave devices, skin devices, many different types of physiological measuring devices have been used for this type of protocol. In the other room, you might be the receiver. So you're sitting in the chair, also hooked up to all of these devices. And so the sender's role is to, every time they see your picture show up on a monitor, they are supposed to direct their positive intention towards you. And then when your face disappears, they stop and relax. And as the receiver, you just sit there and relax and wait to see what happens. Now, this has been done many different studies all over the world, so many different trials. And when you look at all of that data, what you see is that the physiology, the person's body who is receiving, changes when the person is positively intending towards you versus when they're not. So essentially the receiver's body is picking up the person's intention. And what's so incredible about this is it happens instantaneously. So there's no time between, okay, I'm thinking about you now, for some sort of force or beam to go from one room to the next room. It is an instantaneous shift that the body of the receiver shifts. And it has also been shown that the body of the receiver matches the body of the sender. Now we use these terms sender and receiver like it is this force beam moving around, but there's actually quite a bit of evidence that it doesn't work quite like that.
Okay. So we saw when we did this little experiment with the thoughts, that and somebody had mentioned even that their faces changed when we did that. So we have to be really aware when we send out thoughts, and we do this sometimes very unconsciously. We just think of somebody, we have a certain impression about a person, and we're constantly sending that out. And the more people have that same impression about somebody, we put him then in a box, and that person is not able to get out of the box because all the thoughts are just confirming that, making dense that picture. So this is just something we should be aware of, and we can change that. And we start with ourselves, and our own self-image. That's the same thing. The thoughts which we have about ourselves, how we are, this is exactly reflecting out to others, and others pick it up. So this is the principle of resonance. So so now we look at the brainwave patterns. This is a simplified view that these are fixed waves, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. There are certain states of awareness where some of these are prominent and others are less prominent. But in every state of awareness or existence, all brain waves are there simultaneously. It's similar like in Ayurveda, the doshas. There's not one dosha only, but it's always a mixture of vata, pitta, kapha. One is more, one is less. And with the gunas of prakriti also, there's no pure sattva or pure tamas or rajas. It's always a mixture. Same with the brain waves. But this just makes it a little easier to understand the function of the brain waves. And they are measured from very low brain waves in very inactive states to the high brain waves. So they are measured in hertz, and the lowest, which are listed here, are the delta waves. There are even brain waves which are now being experimented with and also used in certain kinds of meditation, which are even lower than delta waves, which are called epsilon, but we'll not consider them at the moment. So we consider the lowest brain waves are delta waves, which are usually found when a person is in deep sleep, can be also in deep meditation and in regeneration. This is a delta wave, very, very, very slow wave, 0.5 to 4 hertz. And then the next is the theta waves, which are in a state of subconsciousness and twilight, hypnosis, creativity, meditation, and light sleep. And what is interesting is that children, usually up to the age of 8, are dominantly in that theta state. And especially interesting is that up to that age, children often have memories of past lives. And they're very much connected. They don't have so much, their ahankara is not fully developed. They don't have this strict sense of separation of, this boundary, this is my body, and this is you, and they define themselves differently. And they often are very much connected to the environment. They speak with entities which we cannot perceive. They have a whole world of fawns and spirits, and very playful. It's all natural for them. And once they are more integrated into society, they learn that this is all nonsense and imagination and play. So they lose that ability. Even some other psychic abilities, for example, binding a child's eyes with blindfold and asking them to tell the content of a book, which is like something like telepathy. They can, sometimes you find instances, they just do it spontaneously because they're not aware of that this is not possible. It's just for them, they're not yet conditioned to think in a certain way, that reality has to be a certain way. And that is because they're in this theta state, which is also achieved in states of meditation where you open your awareness up and have more that feeling of connectedness, of oneness. So then the next wave is the alpha waves, which is usually in a relaxed, calm state, alert, where there's no specific stimulation. And that's a very good state for meditation. Not agitated, calm, but at the same time alert. And then beta waves, if we are very intensely concentrated, active thinking, focusing, planning, ruminating, and problem solving. And this is something which we want to avoid when we meditate, because then the mind is running here and there and too much is going on, one is distracted. This is the typical stressful beta state in which many people find themselves constantly, and which is actually harmful in the long run if we don't shift to other gears and states. And then the gamma waves, that is a very sharp focus, high creativity, learning, insights, heightened state of awareness. And in mediums you find that also when they're in a picking up things from a realm which is usually not available. These are also gamma waves.
People who are very much interested in playing maybe soccer, so they get so much absorbed. So when they are so much absorbed, so in which state their waves can come into?
It depends what kind of absorption it is. If it's a meditative absorption, which is not the case here, a meditative absorption can be alpha, it can be theta. So the combination of alpha and theta is very good for meditative absorption. There are different kinds of meditation. Attention, where you focus on one thing, can be spacious awareness, where you just have just mindfulness without a specific focus. It can be attention on feeling, bodily feeling, so different kinds of absorption. But what you are talking about, that absorption is, that sports is usually in beta. It's like, you're very tense, very passion, yeah, focused, yeah. So that is usually a theta state.
By the way, non-football could
Beta state. So now, it has been found that there are certain frequencies, sound frequencies, which have a very profound effect on the mind. And it can influence emotions, it can influence cognitive states, and it can also influence health. There have been many researches done recently. There's frequency medicine, there's a lot in that area, where just with frequencies you can reach the energy field of the person and also the mind. Yes?
On this proposal, myself, I am experimenting from a person with healing with the sound. I am experimenting what they call the binaural sound.
We're coming to that.
And when I use them only for 16 minutes, it seems that I'm deepening very, very, very deep in the Sushupti.
Yes.
Is it the case?
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, it's like also Yoga Nidra is similar to that. So you go in a very deep state.
Yes, and very quickly.
I do the same thing.
Okay.
We are doing experiments. That's why I ask everybody to bring their earphones, because we are listening to binaural beats in different waves. We're just coming to that. So thank you. Okay, so these frequencies can be used for various things, like stress reduction. The alpha wave, for example, can reduce the stress and can make you relaxed. For falling asleep, it is good to have alpha waves. Usually they're combined with other sounds so that you don't have the pure binaural beat, which can be a little bit, if you hear it purely, it's this pulsating sound, which is not so pleasant for some people. So usually it is mixed with some other sound, like ocean waves, for example. Ocean waves are very, very calming, or raindrops. We'll hear that also. So this can be mixed with other sounds to make a very pleasant effect. And delta waves are usually used in that way. For enhanced learning and focus, gamma and beta waves can improve the concentration. They can be also mixed. For example, gamma can be also mixed with theta to get a state of high awareness, at the same time very deep rest. There's also a state where the body is basically asleep and the mind is fully alert. So one can experience a lot. We're going to listen to some of these. It's very, it's quite fascinating. And then theta and alpha states promote deeper meditative states. So there's something which is called audio-visual brainwave entrainment, AVE. And so the brain is stimulated with external pulsating frequencies which cause the brain to synchronize with them. And this stimulus can be auditory, just the sound frequency. It can be also visual and tactile. For example, there are devices where you have glasses on, so you have headphones, you hear in both ears different sound frequencies, which is the binaural beats, and then you have lights, red lights usually, stimulating your eyes, and this creates a stronger effect in the brain. And there are also some tanks where you are in water. You don't feel the weight of your body. You're just floating in water in total darkness, and this also creates some effects. And it can help people with various problems. It can help against depression. Sometimes people want to connect with the diseased ones. I mean, people who are on the other side, and they can get connection with spirits and all kinds of things. Or if you have a very urgent questions in your life which you want to solve, so these things can get you in a state where you can get the answers to such questions. And so this pulsating effect creates a frequency following response, which means that the brain tries to imitate that pulsating sound and creates the same sound. It's following what it's stimulated with. And so for that effect, one can use binaural beats and light stimulating devices. So now, a binaural beat, this is an auditory sensation where you get on two different ears frequencies which slightly differ. For example, if you put in one ear 110 hertz and in the other ear 100 hertz, then the difference between is so little that you cannot consciously make out the difference. But the difference is 10 hertz. And what the brain does, it creates 10 hertz in order to make up for that difference. It's like an imaginary frequency which is created by the brain to harmonize these two sounds. And the 10 hertz matches the alpha wave. So in that way, that is a binaural beat which creates an alpha wave through these slightly different inputs in both ears. So that's like a phantom beat. And so by guiding the brain into this specific frequency, it can induce different desired mental states like relaxation or focus, meditation or sleep. And so we already heard that this is the pulsating rhythm is called the frequency following response. And you will hear it now when we hear the audios. You will hear that there's a pulsing sensation. You hear it in the one ear and then you hear another sound in the other ear. So before we hear that, let us just remind ourselves that this is not a new phenomenon. This stimulating the brain through these various sounds was known also in India very much. And there are temples, is it Bhuvaneshwar? Let me see. I think it's Bhavaneshwar. There are different temples in South India, the Shiva temple, where there are two bells in the entrance, and they have slightly different frequencies. So you come in and you ring the bell, and then you ring the other bell, or another person rings the bell. So that means you are surrounded by these two different frequencies, and the same thing happens. It's because the frequencies are slightly different. So when you enter the temple, you are already put in that state where you are receptive, and you are already becoming like aware of the divine. You get into that state of meditative awareness just by these different sounds. So that's a very scientific way where people were already tuned into the receiving the darshan of the divine. And another way is not only the ringing of the bells, but also chanting of Om, which is can also alter the brain waves in a very similar way. And if you remember, we did this exercise last time with a resonant tuning, and just by by humming or by tuning, by singing this Om, this frequency synchronizes our brain halves. And just to get this effect of synchronicity already puts us in a state of calmness, of more alertness, of like receptiveness, because most often the brains are not connected, the brain halves are not synchronized, and that creates disharmony and stress. So another way is also when we are chanting in kirtan, everybody has a slightly different tune when we all sing together. Just the fact that we hear people around us singing in slightly different tunes, the same thing happens. The brain tries to synchronize these different voices into one, and already that brings us into that state of receptiveness, of meditation. So apart from the spiritual effect of chanting, that itself, physiologically, we are also put in a meditative state by kirtan. He's our expert.
No. I heard somebody complain about this.
Uh-huh.
That it's disturbing them that, one person is singing this way, another person is singing that way. So it's quite interesting that you're saying that.
Yeah, but if they're singing,
it should be a meditative experience.
It depends. If they're singing out of tune, then it can be disturbing. So it really depends. If it's all in tune, everything's properly, but slightly different nuances, then it is helpful. But if somebody sings off tune, then of course that can be disturbing.
Just like in an instrument, for example, in an instrument, so there is several points on that. We can detune the two reeds. We have two reeds, the same notes. So we can detune slightly, and it will provoke a kind of vibrato, and very agreeable. And also, I remember about the Om when I was in the school in primary, in a religious school. As at a certain time, the children, we were beginning to make a humming sound.
Yeah.
And this sound was desesperating the brother who were taking care of us. Another point is also about the sounds of the bells. Some people, they like very much the sound of the bells, and other people, they are very afraid and they don't like. Can you explain that?
What kind of bells were
The bells of the church, for example.
That I would suggest that this has to do with, that's another thing, that's probably their sanskaras. If you have a certain idea about a church bell, maybe you have some bad experience, and then the church bell reminds you of that. So I assume it's not the sound itself, but it is that what you connected with, and that is unpleasant, and therefore you don't like the bell. That's my assumption. Because the bell itself, that it depends on the person. We would have to know the situation, but sound of a bell itself is neutral, but because it's a church bell, there are certain associations which come along with it.
Yes. And another point, the last one, is about the frequency of the 440, for the A440, instead of A432. What do you think about the difference? Is it really efficient to lower the frequency of the A in an instrument, for example? Instead of playing A440 Hz, playing in tuning in A432.
I can't say. I have no experience about that. Whether it's, I think it's a matter of you have to try it out.
Because it's a big discussion amongst the musicians to play in the.
Okay, I'm not a musician, but so I can't really comment on that. But
Somehow I mix the how to say this, Übergang, the pass over from the transition from when you explained the separate waves to the binaural beats.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, it sounds like that it's about to combine. Then here, let's say the alpha, and here the.
This is the next thing which we're going to do. binaural beats can stimulate these brain waves. So you can create. That example was by having 110 hertz in one ear and 100 in the other ear. The brain creates 10 hertz, which is alpha state. So in that way, you create through binaural beats. You create an alpha state.
And I could not just have the 10 and the 10 here, so that I have this alpha from both sides. Or what is
that? That is a different thing. That when the brain itself creates it, then that is you get the deep absorption. Just hearing it, it's just normal as you hear music, but that has a different effect. You can hear music and you're not so deeply absorbed, but by letting the mind create itself that brain wave, it's different than just listening to it and absorbing it passively. It's like active and passive. You're more,
I also don't understand exactly the point, because when you put 100 hertz here and 110 hertz here, it has already a wavelength of at least 100 hertz. So how does it go down to just 10 hertz?
Well, the thing is, this is just an example. The point is that if you put two different frequencies into each ear, then the brain doesn't like that. We always try to balance. Usually whatever we hear, we try to balance. If we hear a sound from one direction, we turn the ear so that we hear it from both. It's a natural reaction. We don't like to only hear one thing here and the other here. So the brain automatically tries to balance it. And it balances it by creating the difference. And this creating the difference, this is what brings that absorption. The brain itself creates it. It's not just hearing something outside, but it's something which is created inside. And that makes a special effect. And I think when you experience it, then you will feel, you know how it feels. You can immediately feel the effect, basically. There's a difference between hearing just music and hearing a binaural beat. I think it's when you experience it, you notice.
The difference between the two frequencies create this low harmonic, because the 10 hertz it's very difficult to create with an instrument. Even the 50 hertz, which is the frequency of the electricity, we can not hear it. But like you said, the brain is making automatically the difference, the harmonics between the 100 and 110 or other frequency almost similar.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have to create these frequencies. This has various benefits for the mind. It can improve our focus, our cognitive function. This is mostly the alpha waves, can be also beta. Enhances memory, attention, problem solving, helps with ADHD, learning difficulties. Then it can lead to deep relaxation and stress reduction. These are the lower brain waves. Reduces symptoms of anxiety. Can help us better sleep and recover. Encourages deep sleep. Improves restfulness. Helps with insomnia. Mood enhancement and emotional balance. Supports emotional resilience and mental clarity, and enhances meditation and mindfulness. Guides the brain into deep meditative states, and accelerates spiritual and self-awareness practices. So now we'll just have a quick look at the brain hemispheres. We did that in the first session, but this is now more specifically to our meditation, our japa, because this is something which we want to learn how we can improve our awareness during japa and create awareness where the problems are. So our left hemisphere is mostly related with the conscious mind. It is language oriented, it's analytic, planning, decision making, problem solving, labeling. So all that is going on. Sometimes, unfortunately, when we want to focus and meditate or whatever, then this planning and all that starts, which is left hemisphere. It also gives us self-identity. Ahankara, we'll come to that later, and separates us from the environment. This is a DMM, it is a default mode network. We'll speak about that in a moment. And it leads to mental chatter, to inner dialogue, and to storytelling. So this is the monkey mind, which we want to reduce when we do japa. We don't want that this mental chatter continues, and this inner dialogue, which is mostly related to the left hemisphere and to this DMN. And it potentially distorts our experience of the world. Of course, it's very much needed for many things. It's very much needed, but now specifically when we want to focus, when we want to meditate, it can be disturbing if that is very active. So the right hemisphere is more connected with the subconscious mind, and the ability to sustain attention and to be deeper absorbed in the moment. So instead of the mind tends to jump into the future and into the past and ruminate and all that stuff, that is all the left brain. But to be just aware of the moment, that is actually the right hemisphere. So if you want to strengthen that, if you want to create awareness, just be here and now, or not somewhere here and there, then we can do practices which strengthen that part, the right hemisphere. It is more holistic, intuitive, non-verbal, spatial, present and focused, and processes emotions, sound, and patterns beyond words. And activating the right hemisphere can deepen focus and a sense of oneness. So what I find very interesting is, so there is a place in the brain which has been found as self-identity, which we can say this is the ahankara. We know ahankara is something which exists separate from the brain and before the brain, but still it's like we can understand the brain to be a channel or funnel for the ahankara. So that there is a specific part which is related to that, and if that part is damaged or quietened, then there's a different sense of self-identity, which I find very interesting, and we'll have a little story about that. So this DMN, it is called the default mode network, and it plays a crucial role in self-identifying by supporting the self-referential thinking, autobiographical memory, and introspection. So interesting also the name default mode network, which means if you don't think of anything else, like if you don't think about other people or planning, then the default is thinking about ourselves, this self-identity. So this is always, our ahankara, we can't help it. It's a part of, we can't eliminate it. But as soon as the mind goes away from external, whatever it is, people, events, as soon as there's nothing there, immediately it comes back to us. We think we have the self-identity, which is important, of course, to have, but at the same time, it separates us from the environment. It creates a very clear boundary between, this is me, I am, and then we have a certain idea who we are and what we are not and what others are. So this is all done by the DMN. And there's another part, which is the right parietal lobe, RPL, which is also a region in the brain which is responsible for shaping self-perception, self-related thoughts, body awareness, and autobiographical memory. Very similar. It is involved in spatial awareness and self and other distinction, just making this boundary between me and others, and meaning it helps you sense where you are in space and differentiate yourself from others. So a less active RPL makes you less aware of your surroundings and helping you stay immersed in meditation. And studies show that deep meditative states correlate with reduced RPL activities. And the same goes for this DMN. There was a Harvard-trained neurologist, Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, And she wrote a book by the title My Stroke of Insight. She had a stroke in her left hemisphere. And that was very interesting because she lost her language capabilities. She was not able to express herself anymore. And what she says is very interesting because she says that this capacity for her was extremely liberating. She says she was not constantly labeling, categorizing, and analyzing the environment. She was just experiencing. She explained that there was such a sense of peace and openness when the left hemisphere was silent that she had missed after she gained the function of her left hemisphere. And then she had an interview and she was asked whether she would prefer to have that stroke, and then she didn't know really what to say. On the one hand, of course, we want to be analytical, but on the other hand, just to experience this, being freed from this constant labeling and analyzing and judging and restricting yourself, that was experienced as very liberating. And this is something which we can actually achieve in meditation. Just freeing ourselves from this constant limiting. So calming the DMN and the RPL and reducing other instructions can improve focused attention, meditation, which is our japa. So before we try the method, let's just have a look at the Bhagavad Gita. We know these verses from 6th chapter, 12 to 14. What Krishna says about a yogi, how a yogi can achieve perfection in meditation. So he's saying, this is Babaji's translation, in a clean and sanctified place, the yogi should establish his own stable seat, which is neither too high nor too low, and which is made of kusha grass covered with a deer skin and a soft cloth. By sitting on that seat, having regulated his mental and sensual functions by concentrating his mind on one point, he should practice yoga to purify his heart. Holding the body, head and neck straight and steady, remaining firm, fixing one's gaze in front of the nose without looking in any other direction, being tranquil in mind, devoid of fear, firmly established in the vow of celibacy, having regulated the mind and fixed it on me, and being intent exclusively on me, the yogi should sit, remaining fully absorbed in meditation on me. It's quite difficult to achieve. I mean, we understand that this is the ideal, but just a position, and it's very, obviously it is very difficult. So now,
if you don't have a deer skin.
If you don't have a deer skin, then already we're facing big trouble, yeah. So it's not exactly the thing which we can do in practical life.
Is it part of the Ashtanga Yoga?
It is part of Ashtanga Yoga, it's not part of Bhakti. So we don't have to really worry too much about it because it's another path. But this is just to see what one can do to focus the mind. And there are other ways of focusing the mind. I have listed 5 tools which I found most helpful for japa. Let's just quickly go through them. So the first thing is what I call thought parking tool. So this is something which is very helpful. Before we start japa, we create in our mind a box or any container. And we create it in our mind, and before we start our japa, we open the box, we open the lid of the box, similarly as we had done in that meditation about our limiting beliefs. And all the thoughts which we'll have in the next however long we meditate, like an hour, whatever, we just take the thought. I mean, I really do it like I imagine really grabbing here into my brain and taking out all the thoughts and just putting them in the box and closing the lid. And we know they stay there safe. In 1 hour, as soon as we're done, if we need, we can open the box and we can take them out. But at this time we are freed from them. So this is already something which I personally find helpful. Just to do this every day, it takes only a few seconds. Once you have created the box, you just open your box and throw it out, put it in the box bath. And then a very helpful method also, which probably all of you know, is pranayama, this nadi, shodhana, which balances both hemispheres and shifts from thinking to awareness, because you create the synchronicity of the brain halves and get more into the right brain. Should we do a little try it out, or do you all know how to do it? Everybody knows. Okay. Then another method is the box breathing, where you inhale 4 seconds, you hold it for seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold it 4 seconds. So there are many, many different ways of pranayama, but this is also one way which calms the nervous system and improves the focus. Another one which we already spoke about is that humming. This is something which Babaji himself told me about. He said just doing 3 ohms before you chant japa is helpful, because om, as we have experienced, it already creates that awareness. So it also activates the right hemisphere through the vibration. And then the other one is listening to binaural beats. So, okay, another Bhagavad Gita shloka, because we don't have so much time left, and I want to now get into that experience. So I have prepared a few samples for different brain waves. So if you have your headphones ready, then we'll play a few samples. I have samples for each brainwave, just to give you an idea how it sounds. We start with the lowest brainwave, which is delta. So I'm playing delta now. If you don't have, it's not.
The handphone is very muffled.
Okay. Anyway, okay, I'll just play it. Okay, this was an example of delta. And now we'll go to theta. this was already a little bit faster. Could hear the pulsation. So the first, the delta, I don't know if you notice the difference. For sleeping, delta, it puts you into sleep, where the theta is suitable for, you can still keep focus better. Of course, you would have to hear it a little longer. And we'll compare it now with alpha.
Which is for?
Alpha and theta are both good for meditation, and we'll hear also, if we have the time, it can be mixed, of course. Ideally, if you mix them, then you can create exactly the effect that you are alert, but at the same time very relaxed. So
Beta is for
beta, I don't have beta because beta is a state which we are already usually in, which is like our normal mode of being like in stress or being, whatever we do. Usually it's beta. It can be also alpha depending on our modus operandi, how we are, if we are more relaxed types or if we're more like constantly in action and managing and doing stuff. But it's at least good to get into alpha, because when you're in alpha you don't get stressed out. In beta you can get stressed out very easily. Okay, now we'll listen to alpha. Could anyone notice a difference? We don't have so much time. I would still like to give you a few more samples. There is something very interesting, which is noise. There is white noise, brown noise, and pink noise. And that is also a different frequency. White noise is a little sharp, which is not so pleasant, but brown noise and pink noise are very good. They can help sleep. It blocks out all other sound. It's like ideal if you have a lot of noise, like here in Vrindavan, because it's like static noise. At the same time, it has a mixture of waves. I have one special mix, which is brown noise, which is like a very deep, low frequency, but then it has also high gamma. So it has a deep relaxation, and it has also focus and awareness. So this is also used, for example, for remote viewing sessions. This gives you, it's very helpful to be totally deeply absorbed and shut out other thoughts. And for example, I'm experimenting in japa with all these things, and it's I think everybody has to try themselves. But I have found frequency for myself which have really improved my focus on japa. And so I'm just giving you some samples to try it out for yourself. And so that's why I want to give you a few more tastes. So we're just doing a little brown noise. Some pink noise. Let's see, more pink noise. So now our time is up, and I have two more very interesting sound samples where everything is mixed. These were the pure waves, but it becomes really interesting if you're guided into a specific state. So now I'm asking you, our session is over for today. So I have a less than 5 minute meditation where you get into a state which, in a deep meditative state, like called darkness behind the eyes. We focus on different regions and then puts you in a very deep state. And another, which is from the Mono Institute, about which I want to speak also a little bit, which guides you, which is really a journey. It's just the first of a long journey. And I would not play the whole half hour, but maybe the first 6 minutes, where you can see how different frequencies and guided, like you can say, guidance, vocal guidance, leads you into different states of awareness. Both are interesting to experience, So I want to ask you whether you're interested. Shall we do that next time? I mean, yeah. So the next session will have to be cancelled next week because I'm not there. We can have it on Thursday following week. Yeah, and I think we'll just stick to 1 hour because we are all very limited. Unfortunately, and 1.5 hours is a lot of time. But I'm glad that you're here, and without you I wouldn't give this seminar. So thank you for your participation. And Malika? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just wondering I found the effect of the 4 examples you just gave very strong.
Okay,
so
please share, if you want to share.
I wanted to ask where you get them from. I mean, I'm in YouTube, you can type in alpha waves, but then I don't know where
YouTube, I can share them with you. I have them, there are different apps which I use specifically for that. There are specific apps for binaural beats. I have one app from Germany, NeoWake. The Monroe app is there, then the HemiSync app is there, also various apps. But I can, if you like, I can share what I have played. I can share that with you on the,
There was no binaural beat in these 4 now, right?
They were all binaural beats.
All 4?
Yeah, because, could you hear the pulsation, So that's how you recognize it. And it's masked with another sound. Because if you only hear the it can be a little bit like, I also sometimes hear only the noise, but usually you have either soft music along with it, or you have ocean waves, or you can have raindrops, some other sound, and it blends, and then it's more pleasing, and then the brain can easier absorb it. The first one was the lowest brainwave, which is delta, which puts you to sleep or in a very deep state of meditation.
The first one, I could hear the very, very strong.
Okay, it was in all. It's interesting because it was audible in all, but it's possible that's a reason why your brain picked it up specifically in that one, because I think some other people perceive it differently. Everybody perceives it differently, which is also an interesting experience, how you perceive it and how you...
Yeah, and also I want to share that in the second, and I don't know which one it was, maybe the 4th or the 3rd, I was gone. So
yeah. Usually also one has to listen much longer. This was a very, very short time, but the brain needs, like, I would say 5 minutes to adjust it. So this was really just a little taste. I would suggest to experiment, and so there's one very interesting thing also, that we are not dependent on the technology, which is really helpful, because you can learn, you can program yourself, and then the brain will automatically create this. This is what I find fantastic. I mean, there are, for example, I have learned methods to program myself in a very deep state of theta delta. It's like programming the subconscious mind with a certain frequency and a command. And I just have to give the command, and then I can get into that state, which is a very fantastic way for...
And also I've seen that, I've heard that there is different, by example, we have heard that some are composition, musical composition, with harmony, and others they are just pure sound. Is it making a difference between when there is a harmonic composition, or if it's just a pure sound?
Yeah, there is a difference between that, pure sound, and also guided. It all makes a difference. And it's very individual how you react to that. And my suggestion is really experiment with it. Because it can help you get into different states. You can, for example, when you want to learn something, you want to absorb something, you can have it playing, in the background. It can help you focus better. You can have it while you're doing japa. You can have it for sleeping, for various things. It can just help you. And you condition the brain. It's like conditioning, and then the more you do it, the easier it is to get into that state. And then just you remember it, and then you can do it.
But is it necessary to have a guide for choosing which frequency will be the best?
It is helpful to have a guide. It's helpful, but it's not absolutely necessary. You can, if you have the different frequencies, you can, and if you know a little bit about what we learned today, just to have an idea which frequency has which effect, or if you have an app which already tells you, okay, this is for that. There are apps which give you, which don't tell you the frequencies, but which should tell you that this is for relaxation, this is for, then.
Yes, and what is the relation with the raga, for example? The raga, different ragas, they are good for a certain state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Ragas also have that effect. It's not binaural beat, but it's a very similar. The brain also there's a certain frequency to which the brain responds, and that brings you in a certain mood. For every hour, basically, there's a different raga depending on so many factors. It's very scientific.
Just like in the South Indian music, they have 72 melakartas.
That's.
So a lot of difference of mood.
Yeah, Mohin.
Where did you learn to program your brain? Is there any app or?
I learned it in the Mono Institute. Yeah. You have to learn it. I'm planning to also do some seminars where we do something similar, in small groups, where we get into a very deep state of, it's a hypnagogic state where you can, where you can program yourself with subconsciousness.
But then you can program your mind through the command, and you don't need.
Yeah, you need somebody to program it. I mean, you have to listen. You can't do it yourself because you are in that state, and then somebody has to guide you into that. Yeah.
Malati, I just wanted to add something.
Yeah.
That I have 2 daughters, and the eldest one is diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and she's at the first couple of years of university, she used to wear these big ear blockers, in order to keep sound out.
Yeah.
But then the youngest, when she also entered university, she started to use these waves. And gave it to her sister as well, and both of them, they're only studying, especially during cram sessions for exams, they're only listening to this. And at first I was skeptic because I thought, what's this noise, And I understand it's really helping to keep focus, so I can only second that.
Okay, thank you, interesting. So thank you very much, and see you Thursday in 1 week. Radhe Radhe.